Shalom, Israel. Shalom, shalom. Brother Naquam, watching for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach Malak Yahushai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, and presenting their body as a living sacrifice. Shalom, shalom. A hearty shalom to all of the men of the Lord that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to all of the Aquath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. Right? It's a beautiful Sabbath. It's like, yeah. It's a beautiful Sabbath in these last days. The topic of this cold cut is Sabbath special Q&A, the countdown to the harvest and more. So usually I like to go into early morning history and prophecy, but I figured through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim will open it up for a Q&A. And another thing I want to go into is the countdown to Pentecost. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread is over with as of Sunday night to Monday night, right? It ended, the last day started Sunday night and it was over Monday night at sundown, right? And now you're counting down essentially your 7 weeks until you get to Pentecost, right? Or your Feast of Harvest. And I want to touch on that on a spiritual level as well, right? So let's deal with this first question. Can you explain Revelation chapter 8, verses 10 through 12? All right, let's deal with it. All right, let's deal with it. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verses 10 through 12. Okay, Revelation chapter 8. It's like, bear with me. The page is stuck. Okay, Revelation chapter 8 and 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. So I actually want to show this, right? Let me actually show this on the screen so we can all kind of see this thing through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Right? So let's open up Revelation, the 8th chapter. Okay, let's go to this. Revelation 8 deals directly with the trumpets that are beginning to sound, right? And you hear these trumpets that go one after the other. Right now, the trumpets are opened up during the seventh seal. All right, you have 6 seals that work in tandem, that move in order. And then the seventh seal is when the 7 trumpets begin to sound. Right now, we're living in the days of the 4th seal. And the 5th seal draws nigh. The 5th seal goes into Jacob's trouble, right? And the 7th seal is the end of the world as World War III is at its all-time high. And then you have different trumpets within that 7th seal. All right. And each one of those trumpets signify a particular prophecy or event. Right? Salakia signifies a particular prophecy or event that leads up prior to the second coming of our Lord. So let's deal with it, right? Revelation chapter 8 and verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. Right, let me make sure the question is up there. Okay, Salakia. Right, bear with me. Let me just make sure that we're able to see. Okay, we can kind of see that. I just want to make sure this is in the spirit. Okay, let me take this out. Okay. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. So this great star falling from heaven is not a shooting star, right? Contrary to what they teach in Christianity or modern day eschatologists. Remember, Revelation It's not for everybody. Revelation is given to his servants, the prophets. So there's a lot of similitudes that the Lord uses when he goes into particular breakdowns, right? This Hosea chapter 12 and 10 to prove it. Everything's not literal. It's not a literal star falling down from heaven, right? Stars don't fall down from heaven. The Most High said they stand in their order and they never faint in their watches. Stars do not leave their course, their structure, their constellation, and fall down to the earth, man. Right? This Hosea chapter 12 and 10. I have also spoken by the prophets, and have multiplied visions, and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So the Lord uses similitudes. A similitude is a comparison, right? The Lord compares one thing to a star, which means they have similar characteristics. Although this is not a literal star, it is something that when John saw it, it resembled a star. It had the same features, same characteristics, same type of structure. So he called what he didn't know, which was an intercontinental ballistic missile. He called it a star. Now you may say, well, how can he mess up a star from a missile? Do you think John knew what a missile was? Do you think John could write down around 96 AD or so? I saw an intercontinental ballistic missile shooting from a nuclear silo launch pad, and it moved at 20,000 kilometers per hour. The propelling gas, he didn't have that understanding, man. So like we always go into, he had to describe futuristic things with an ancient mind. He had to describe futuristic technology with things that he grew up around, things that were in his environment. Now, we can actually understand that he was talking about a missile because when you look up, let's see if I can type in missile. Let's see if we can see a missile in the air. Now, if you didn't know any better, let's see if I can find the right image. John might have thought this was a star falling from heaven, right? It was up there in the sky. Then he sees it coming down to the earth. He says it was a what? Burning as it were a lamp, right? That's how those missiles move, man. He saw that fire burning, but he saw it coming down to the earth. So John didn't really know what that thing was, man. He looked in the sky. If you're looking down on the earth and you see something like that in the sky, you might have thought it was a star, but you saw the smoke, so you're like, man, that thing is on fire. So remember, our forefathers didn't have the familiarity with technology and science that we have now. Now, when you go to Daniel 12, it says knowledge shall be increased. So that's why we're able through the Holy Spirit to interpret what John actually saw, right? This Daniel chapter 12 and 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Right? So knowledge of the scriptures, knowledge of events, knowledge of technology, knowledge of history, all of these things have skyrocketed through the will and counsel of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Right? Now, let's see if I can get one more picture. Let's see if I can show. See that? Hold on. See that right there? Right? So how is John supposed to know what that is? There's only one way to describe this. A star burning, as it were, a lamp. Right? Let's go back to this. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountain of waters. Now, this isn't talking about a water fountain. It's not talking about the Trevi fountain. It's not talking about the Mississippi River. Okay, then the third part, okay, it fell upon the river, the Tigris River. Okay, then it fell upon the Chinese River. No, the rivers and fountains of waters are talking about kingdoms, right? Smaller kingdoms, really. That's what this means. Now, first and foremost, the word third part just means a complete amount, an indefinite amount, not literally 33%. Third part is a poetic way of saying a certain portion. All right, how do you know? Because the word third, let's prove this. Let's go to the book of Revelation. All right, let's prove this word third part. Revelation chapter 12 and verse, we'll start at 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. This is dealing with the Roman Empire, right? And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. The stars of heaven are the children of Israel. All right. Now it says a third part of the stars, meaning a certain portion of Israelites were cast down to the ground. Right, a certain portion of our nation was in subjection to Israel. I mean, to the Romans, because you have some of our people on this side of the world already. You have the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom on this side of the world. You have some of the northern kingdom that remained amongst the southern kingdom, like Anna the prophetess. Her fathers, they remained there. She was from the tribe of Asher, right? So a third part isn't always literally 33%. It just means a certain portion of a great multitude. Hence, you have a people that can't be numbered, which are Israel. So how can you have a third part of something that can't be numbered? It just means a certain portion, right? Another example is when you go to Salaki, I had the precept in my mind. It escapes me at the moment, but Lord willing, it comes back. But what I can get, let's go to 1 Samuel, right? The 3rd chapter, I believe. Right, there was another precept I wanted to get dealing with the third part. Right, but the third part just means a certain portion. Right, hold on, let me get Zechariah. Right, like we always go into 1/3. Right, Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, said the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. Right, so you're going to have a certain portion of our people, a small percentage of our people, 1/3, they're going to make it out, and the 2/3 they're not going to make it. All right. So a third is really just going into a remnant. So when the Most High said Salakia, bear with me, it fell upon the third part of the rivers, it just means a certain portion of nations are going to be hit by these missiles. Right? Certain nations. Now, do we know what nations are? No, but a certain portion of them are. Because guess what? When these missiles come, they're not going to kill everybody. Now, Israel, they're not going to make it, but these other nations, we still have to have a remnant reserved for captivity. We still have to go and take these nations down and put them in slavery. So the missiles aren't going to kill everybody, just a certain portion of them. Now, you see this word rivers and fountains of waters. Right? This is really going into nations. They're referred to as seas, right? And the waters, right? And we went into that, I believe, maybe a few weeks ago, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 29 and verse 2. Son of man, we're going to prove that rivers and fountains of waters are talking about lands. Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Right now, this Pharaoh is really going into the so-called white man on a deeper level. He's the modern day Pharaoh. Speak and say, thus said the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which hath said, my river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. So what does this mean? Well, Esau, he's the great red dragon. We covered that in Revelation, the 12th chapter, with 7 heads and 10 horns. And he lieth in the midst of the rivers, just like the great whore sits upon the many waters. In the midst of the rivers, meaning Babylon the Great is the top nation on the earth, right? They run this system. It reads, which hath said, my river is my own, I made it for myself. So they believe this land is theirs. They believe their power is theirs. They don't understand that the Most High has set them up, right? It reads, but I will put hooks in thy jaws and will cause the fish of thy rivers to stick into thy scales. And I will bring thee up out of the midst of the rivers, and all the fish of thy rivers shall stick to thy scales. So the Most High is going to utterly destroy them. But the rivers, meaning the land mass where they dwell at, those are the fountains and the rivers of waters. Another precept you can prove that the waters are talking about the nations is the book of Psalms, right? Chapter 18 and verse, let's start at 3. Psalm chapter 18 and verse 3. Bear with me. It reads, I will call upon Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies. The sorrows of death compassed me, and the floods, like a river floods, right? And the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. So the floods and the rivers are talking about nations, of people. It's not literally a water flood. It is a bunch of people in the water as the water rises and they coming up out the water and they come and make you afraid. No, they're referred to as the waters. Remember, the word water sometimes is talking about living water, sometimes meaning wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Sometimes the word water is talking about nations, you know. Sometimes it's actual water, right? So the word water can have different meanings in the Bible, all right? So the third part of the fountains and waters, meaning a certain portion of the nations, are going to be hit when these missiles begin to drop. And verse 11, and the name of the star is called wormwood, right? And the name of the star is called wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. You see that? So the name of the star is called wormwood. Wormwood is something that's bitter, right? It's a bitter herb. Let's pull this up. What wormwood? It's an actual herb. Okay, see that? Now Esau gave us his name Artemisia, right? Artemisia absinthium, right? Gave it a Latin name, but the Most High called it wormwood, man. Right? And it's one of the most bitter herbs that you could take. It's an actual thing. See that? It's an actual thing. Hold on, let's see if I can get. Okay. Now, why would the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushai compare or call a missile wormwood, right? What would be the purpose? Because when those missiles begin to hit, they're going to have that same bitter, catastrophic effect as you would take wormwood. All right, this is an actual bitter herb. So John said the name of that missile is called wormwood, meaning everything that missile epitomizes is nothing but destruction and bitterness. There's not an actual missile called wormwood, right? It's just it sums up, this title of this star sums up the effect of everything that this thing will bring. Okay, just like I'll give you an example. The Most High said, I want to type this in for sake of time. The Most High said his name is jealous in the law, right? This Exodus chapter 34 and 14. Thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Is the Most High's name actually jealous? Okay, I got to call upon jealous, right? His name's not Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You got that wrong. His name's really jealous. No. Right? What does it mean whose name is jealous? It means the Most High, when it comes to idolatry, when it comes to putting other gods before him, he's so heavily against that, his name is jealous. And I hope brothers understand that. Not his actual name, But what he feels, his stance, his character is jealous. Everything about it is jealous when you begin to serve other gods, man. Just like you got a brother who may say, and I used this example before, he may hoop or play basketball. He may say, look, I am basketball. You got athletes that say that, I am boxing. What does that mean, I am boxing? Does that mean on their ID or birth certificate, their name, okay, it says boxing? No. When they say, I am boxing, I am football, meaning they epitomize everything that comes with that sport. So this wormwood being, the star being called wormwood, is the exact same thing. Right, let's go to Proverbs chapter 5. Right? No, I'm spending some time on this question, but we got to go through the precepts, right? Proverbs chapter 5 and 3. The lips of a strange woman drop as in honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. Right? So you got heathen women, even philosophies and doctrines that are seductive, that can entice you and allure you in with smooth words. But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. So if you really get down with these philosophies and doctrines, or these actual women, it may seem good for now, but the end of it is going to catch up with you, man. See that? Wormwood, bitterness. Okay, from an unused root supposed to mean curse. Wormwood regarded as poisonous and therefore accursed. That's why it says in Revelation 8, many men died in the waters because they were made bitter. So that's a poetic way of saying that when these missiles begin to hit, many men are going to die. The same way that if wormwood, the herb, was put in water, people would kind of get poisoned and jammed up. Wormwood symbolizes death. All right, let's get one more. Right, so all it's saying is John the Revelator saw a missile, the missile hit, and many people died. All right, but it's written in a poetic, metaphoric way, man. Jeremiah chapter 23 and 15. Therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts concerning the prophets, behold, I will feed them with wormwood and will make them drink the water of gall or gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem, profaneness going, it's like it's profaneness going forth into all the land. So the Lord is punishing people with wormwood, right, which symbolizes poison and death. So let's move on. All right, that was a good question. Oh, I didn't get verse 12, Salakia. Did I get 12? All right, Revelation 8 and 12, because the brother asked for verse 10, 11, and 12. Revelation 8 and 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and they shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. It's like, now, is this literal? Let's see if I could type this in images and see what they try to give you. Revelation 8:12, third part of sun. They might think it's a literal, man. You look this stuff up. Look at this. So whoever put this together, they thought a literal 1/3 of the sun was going to be smitten and destroyed. Then the third part of the moon was going to be destroyed. Is that literal? No. Right? No, it's not literal. Look at this. For a trumpet, third part of the sun, third part of the moon. So they don't know what's going on. Right? That's why we covered that word third part, because you would think it's literal. It's just talking about a certain portion. All right? An indefinite amount, if you can understand. Now, when you deal with this third part of the sun being smitten and the third part of the moon and the third part of the stars, it's speaking about when World War III is at its all-time high, when these missiles are beginning to hit, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the world is going to be shut down. That's what the sun and the moon and the stars represent in this breakdown or this verse. They represent the lights of the world. All right, the knowledge and the understanding of the nations. Right, often throughout the Bible, you'll see that word sun and moon, and it's always likened unto the wisdom and understanding of these nations, man. Right? So let's prove that. It's lucky. All right. And again, that's why Revelation is such a deep book, because certain things are poetic, certain things are completely parabolic, certain things are similar to its metaphors. You may have to know some history, some timelines. You got to know the law. So Revelation is like a compilation of everything. All right. So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 24 and 21, right? And this shall come to pass in that day, that the Lord shall punish the hosts of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. This is speaking about the elites, your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, the modern day oligarchy, the elites that run this world, right? And they should be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and they should be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall they be visited. So the elect are going to go from land to land once America's destroyed, and rally up and gather up all of our slaves and these elites and put them in these prisons, man. Then we're going to go to the next land and throw them in these prisons. Then we're going to go to the next land and throw them in these prisons. Then we're going to go and take them out and bring them back to the land of Israel in chains, man. Right? And these are your top people that ever ruled the earth. These are your people that invented the so-called white man's colleges, that funded schools of engineering, science, funded the government programs. These are the wise men of the world. So here's what the Most High said in verse 23. Then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. Can the moon actually be confounded? No. You can't confound the moon with your wisdom. You ask the moon, what is Genesis chapter 28 going into? And the moon sits there and spins around three times. No. This is why I don't know. No, the moon being confounded is the light of this world. The sun being ashamed is the light of this world. All right? So it's really going into their science, technology, understanding. That's what the sun and the moon represent. Now, on the contrary wise, our sun and moon is going to be bright. This is Revelation chapter 12 and 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So we represent this woman, right? The Lord said in Jeremiah chapter 6 and 2 that I have likened the daughter of Zion unto a comely and delicate woman. So we are clothed with the sun. At one time we were naked. At one time we were exposed. We didn't have a covering, right? We didn't have wisdom. We didn't have light. We were in darkness. We were in confusion, blinded. But the Most High clothed our nakedness with the sun. So now we're full of light. We're full of truth, right? Now, if you're clothed with the sun, you are clothed with light, right? That's why Proverbs, what is the light that clothes us? Right? Proverbs chapter 6 and 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light. Because was not the sun created to give light? Was not the moon created to give light? So when you're clothed with the sun, you're clothed with the light. Now, our light, meaning the Israelites, is different than the light of the so-called white man. And their light is sodomy, science, engineering, politics, and religion. Our light is laws, statutes, and commandments. We both have a sun and the moon, right? Their sun and moon is being darkened. Our sun and moon is getting brighter. Let's read this again. Proverbs chapter 6 and 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. Right? Let's go to Genesis 1. Right? Genesis chapter 1 and verse 17. Dealing with the sun and the moon. And God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. So that's what the sun and the moon represent. It represents the light upon the earth, the spiritual light upon the earth. All right, and again, in this world, the light of the earth is the pharmaceutical industry, the school system, the governments, the federal agencies. All of that is the light that's upon the earth. Now, when you go back, as you understand that, now you go back to Revelation, the 8th chapter. That's what you got to go through the precepts, right? So when you go back to Revelation, Slakia, chapter 8, now you should have an understanding on what that's actually talking about, right? Revelation 8 and 12. And the fourth angel sounded, that's the fourth trumpet. And the third part of the sun was smitten. So a portion of the so-called white man's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and the other nations going to be shut down, right? You're still going to have war going on, right? Tanks are going to be out there in the Middle East. There's generals are still going to be out there fighting in Syria, Israel, right? Their top scientists, they're all going to be out there. So they're still going to be alive. But at that time of the earth, when these missiles begin to drop, it's not going to be too much brightness out there, right? Spiritually. People are going to be at their wits' end, man. And the third part of the moon and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, meaning their knowledge and understanding is waxing worse and worse. And the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Right? So all it's I'm talking about is the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the nations being shut down as World War III begins to escalate and kick off. So you got to think about, man, towers are going to be destroyed. Government buildings are going to be destroyed. Men are going to be dying in the great death and famine. So a lot of the wisdom that comes from these men, those men are going to be dead. And they're not going to have an answer to what the Most High is putting on the earth. Okay, so let's move on. HBK N. Will the offspring of Jake from heathen women be treated as a lesser tier, like in Acts chapter 6 and 1? Right? Now, brother, are you talking about in the kingdom? Or are you talking about in this life? Right? Now, let's see if I can see if we can deal with this. Will the offspring of a Jake and a heathen woman be treated as a lesser tier? Well, let's prove it. Right? Let's prove that sometimes, yeah, that happened in the ancient world, man. You know, if you every society has things that are so-called taboo, right? Things that are frowned upon, things that are not accepted by the majority of society, things that may not be necessarily a sin, but things that the majority of the people may frown upon. All right. And in the ancient world, amongst our people, it wasn't really a sin if you dealt with a woman of another nation to a certain extent, because the law says if you take see among the woman, a beautiful woman, all right, let me get it, and take her captive, you can have her to be your wife, right? Or Boaz. Boaz married Ruth, right? Boaz wasn't in sin because he married a Moabite. Now, let me clarify. At certain times throughout our people's history and life, it was extremely frowned upon and declared as transgression for dealing with these women due to the state that our people dwelt in. Like in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, they were building a wall, building a temple. You didn't have time. It wasn't no time to be dealing with these heathen, man. Right? During the time of Judges, or during the time of 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, during the time of King David, they were taking these women, man. You know, so it all depends on the spirit. Now, this Deuteronomy chapter 21 and 10. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest amongst the captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife. So the Lord said you can see a heathen woman and say that heathen woman is beautiful and have her to be your wife. So it wasn't a sin, right, to have that woman as your wife. The law doesn't contradict each other. Right? The law doesn't say, okay, you can do this, okay, but you can't do it. Can't do it, but you can do it. All right. Now, when you deal with the offspring of dealing with a heathen woman, Sometimes, or any woman that wasn't necessarily an Israelite woman, or an Israelite woman that wasn't set up by your fathers, or that wasn't virtuous, it was kind of frowned upon. You know, when you go to the book of Judges, and I'm gonna deal with the actual heathen, but I want to get this precept. This Judges chapter 11 and 1. Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of an harlot. And Gilead begat Jephthah. So his mother was a whore. How did they treat the offspring of a woman that was a whore? And Gilead's wife bare him sons. And his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Jephthah, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit in our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman. So, you know, in the ancient world, they didn't really take too kindly to that, man. Might have called him a half-breed, you know? Like now, I mean, well, back then, they used to do that to so-called light-skinned women, man. Right? They had all types of names, man, for them. When you watch that movie, what is that? Jungle Fever. I'm not sure you brothers seen Jungle Fever. Got Wesley Snipes, you know, Samuel Jackson, etc. In Jungle Fever, Wesley Snipes had a sister, man. That was his wife, right? Let me pull it up. I'm not gonna pull up the whole movie. I just want to see if they show his wife, right, in that movie. Okay, so this was his woman, right? Let's see if I can type her name. Okay, I probably spelled it wrong. All right, yeah, this was the wife in Jungle Fever, right? Now, in the movie, obviously she's fairer skinned, so-called light skin, right? In that movie, okay, I see the brother, he said he talking about the kingdom, but I'm gonna deal with it. Okay, brother's not seeing the screen, Salakia. See that? Okay, now in the movie, she actually said that she used to be mocked for being light skinned, man. They would call her octoroon, half-breed, mongrel, right? Half white, half black, mixed. All of these terms were put on her, and she was kind of frowned upon, man, growing up. You know, that's how they used to treat so-called light-skinned people back in the day, man. You know, from because they was kind of caught in between. Now, in the ancient world, if you was the son or a daughter of a whore or a heathen woman, then you was also frowned upon. That's why they thrust this man out. Even if you were the son of parents that committed adultery, you were frowned upon. Right? So to the brother's question, speaking first and foremost about the ancient world, yeah, you were frowned upon. Right? It wasn't something that was comely. Nowadays, it doesn't even matter. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3 and verse, let's see where I want to start. Okay, Salakia. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3 and verse, I'll start at 11. For whoso despiseth wisdom and nurture, he is miserable, and their hope is vain, their labors unfruitful, and their works unprofitable. Their wives are foolish, and their children wicked. Their offspring is cursed. See that? Wherefore blessed is the barren that is defiled, which hath not known the sinful bed. She shall have fruit in the visitation of souls. I'm going to jump down. As for the children of adulterers, they shall not come to their perfection, and the seed of an unrighteous bed shall be rooted out. So if you were a child of adultery, guess what? You didn't get too much privileges, man. They probably put you in the back of the line. You might have went to get some fish or something, some oil in the ancient world. They probably didn't sell you nothing, man. They probably ignored you. You probably wasn't invited to particular feast days or events. You know, nobody wanted to trade with you. They probably didn't want to marry your daughters because you were always had that stigma as a man who was a son of an adulterer, right? As for the children of adulterers, they shall not come to their perfection, and the seed of an unrighteous bed shall be rooted out. For though they live long, yet shall they be nothing regarded, and their last age shall be without honor. See that? So in the ancient world, man, you couldn't just have children with anybody and under any circumstance, right? Because if you didn't go about things the right way and you had a child, people not only did they look at you crazy with a left eye, they also looked at your children like that. And they had to bear the reproach of their fathers. I'm going to get one more, then I'm going to deal with it in the kingdom, right, Lord willing. This Ecclesiasticus, the 41st chapter. And it's not like that now. Nowadays, you could be, half of our parents went off, man. They didn't follow things according to the scripture. I guarantee your earthly father did not go to your mother's father and sit down and talk and discuss the details of marriage. And you got parents they might have met at a bus stop, you know. They might have met at a damn restaurant or something, man. You know, at the mall. Your homeboy might have introduced you. Might have been a party going on. Now you got this Freaknik thing coming out, man. Everybody's talking about the Freaknik documentary. And a lot of children, you were made, unfortunately, at Freaknik. You're a child of Freaknik, man. You know? You're a child. Well, I'm not going to keep going, right? But, that's how it looked. If you was a child of Freaknik, man, in the ancient world, they'll look at you, man. We don't want nothing to do with this guy. That was his parents. Saw you in that document. We don't want nothing to do with you. Now our people don't really have that mentality. They don't care about none of that, man. Because we don't take lineage, we don't take honor, we don't take heritage, we don't take that stuff serious anymore, man. You got Jake dealing with a woman with 2 baby daddies, 8 kids. They don't care about that stuff no more, man. Right? Nobody has any honor or ancient understanding on how you're supposed to feel about different things that we go through, man. But let me move on. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 41. All right, so we don't know what's right and what's wrong anymore, man. Our people are completely destroyed. Then you got Jake. Let me just read this, right? This is right, chapter 41. This is madness. The stuff that we deal with is madness, man. Ecclesiastes chapter 41 and 5. The children of sinners are abominable children, and they that are compassant and the dwelling of the ungodly. Right now in the kingdom, well, if you have a child, if you take these women captive and you deal with them, right, your child is not going to be frowned upon because we're going to be programmed to know as through the seed line of the father, right? And all of our people are going to be all righteous. Okay? Our land isn't going to be shifted from family to family. The inheritance is going to remain within our descendants. The children of sinners are abominable children, but in the ancient world, it was not so, man. And they that are compassant in the dwelling of the ungodly, the inheritance of sinners' children shall perish, and their posterity shall have a perpetual reproach. Check this out. The children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be reproached for his sake. So that was a big deal, man. If your father was ungodly, the Lord said, judge no man before his time, for a man shall be known in his children, paraphrasing, Sirach 11 and 28. So your father, man, if he was a fool, they looked at the son like a fool, right? They looked at the son like a fool. And you could have been righteous as a son, but you had to carry the stigma of your father, because in the ancient world, they knew regeneration. They knew that you, as that guy kind of back on the earth, man. So you really couldn't separate from your father's legacy or your father's, for lack of better terms, his reproach, man. So yeah, in the kingdom, to the brother's question, they won't be treated as a lesser tier because in the kingdom we're all going to be righteous. Now in Acts 6 and 1, those were all Israelite. Let's actually go to it. Israelites in Acts 6 and 1. It doesn't necessarily say that these women were daughters of interracial marriages, right? Or heathen women. This Acts 6 and 1. This is a completely different context. And in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Now, this has nothing to do with interracial marriage, right? Because this word Grecian, these are Israelite women, but they spoke Greek. Now, does it say that their mothers were heathen? It doesn't say, right? But what we do understand is that these were women, Slakia, that were neglected, and you had Grecians that were neglected because they spoke Greek, and Greek was their primary language. So it's like if you go to a charity event and they're handing out turkeys, then you got people that speak English, they get first dibs and first priority on what they want. You got people that speak Spanish, they kind of get frowned upon. They got to wait all the way in the back because they don't speak English, right? Now they're both so-called Hispanic, right? But they're treating ones different than the others, right? And there are people that actually do that. I've met people from different backgrounds that say, look, if you don't speak the family tongue or the family language, you're kind of frowned upon. They don't really deal with you. They'll say you're too Americanized. I know the Moabites don't deal with that, man. If you can't speak that Moabite language, right, and you've been in America and you don't want to learn it, they'll disown you. They don't want to deal with you. They'll murmur against you. That's how important they regard their heritage, man, and their language. That's how it was in the ancient world amongst the Israelites. Let's read it again. And in those days, these are the days of the apostles taking charge of the church. When the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews. So you had certain men that spoke Greek and women that spoke Greek that said, hold on, this ain't right. We should be treated the same. We have widows. It's like y'all have widows. Our widows should be treated with the same reverence and the same care as the Israelite women that speak Hebrew. So they started getting neglected, man. They weren't getting food, water, clothes, money that they can survive, man. And it was a big deal. Now this word Grecian is really going into a Jew that made Greek their primary language. Okay, this is Hellenist. Okay, a Hellenist. It says, okay, we'll read both. One who imitates the manners and customs or the worship of the Greeks and the use of the Greek tongue, used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. So Greek was their primary language. And our forefathers and foremothers, they didn't want to deal with that. Okay, next question. Is flounder a lawful fish? Let's pull it up. Now, a brother asked me this, I believe, earlier this week. I believe they say flounder has scales. Hold on, let's see. Flounder fish. Okay. So here's a flounder. I want to try to pull up an image. Flounder has scales, but some of the scales they say like are under you can see it has scales, right? Underneath their so-called a layer of skin, for lack of better terms, sometimes, right? You can even say, does flounder have scales? right? Select your, hold on. Flounders have scales, but they can be removed easily. Yeah, some brothers say flounder isn't it because it's hard, it's not lawful because they can't really see the scales like that. But flounder, from what I understand, it does have scales. All right, it does have scales. Now, certain fish, some scales are hard to see. Certain breeds and genders of tuna, certain things of flounder are like that. But flounder is something that, from what I understand, you can eat. Okay, we can't see the screen. All right, Salaki, the water for that. Okay. So all I did, I went into it, you do some research on it. Before I understand, flounder has small scales and sometimes they're hitting under there, but it's a clean fish. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, love pious. Do we always have to give 10% of our salary? No, you don't have to give 10%. Anybody asking for 10% of your salary is going off, right? Anybody asking for 10% of your salary, who's getting 10% of your salary, right? Because the law, let's go to Deuteronomy. Actually, let's go to Numbers, right? 10% of your salary is madness, man. Right, let's say you make 80,000 a year, right? You're just coughing up that's too much, right? And really, that goes back into Christianity, right? In Christianity, they say we want 10% of your salary because of tithes. You got to pay your tithes. So you have to go to, you deal with your money, your income. Okay, you take 10% of your $100,000. Okay, you got to give them $1,000. You got to do this. You got to give them $10,000, etc. You don't have to do that, man. Right now, in the ancient world, you have to give 10% of the increase of your crops and of the field. Let me get that first. But you never have to give your pastor and a so-called white man 10% of your salary, man. This is Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 22. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. So you tithe the increase that comes from the field. You may grow grapes, wheat, barley, corn, right? And you have to give 10% of that to the Levites and to the priests. It's not talking about 10% of your wages that you get and you have to give it to some guy, man. And he's strong, and it's really, the church is strong armed robbery. So they're taking your money and they're pulling up in the bins. While you getting off the bus, you got to take 3 buses to get to church. Your pastor pull up in a Jaguar, man. And then he pulls the scripture. Will a man rob God? Right? Let's get that in Malachi. All right, let's go to the book of Malachi, 3rd chapter. Right, this Malachi chapter 3 and 8. Then he tries to condemn you and make you feel bad in your conscience by pulling precepts out of context. Will a man rob God? So if you don't give that 10%, they say you're robbing God. You got your granny. I don't want to rob God. Baby, hand me my purse. Then your granny, she fumbling because she got rheumatoid arthritis. So she trying to open up her purse and she take out a checkbook. And they put the pastor say, write a 1 down. And then he write a whole bunch of zeros after that. Give me the checkbook. Oh, okay. Then your granny put it back in. She take your tambourine, right? And she's getting finessed, man. So this is robbery right there. And they use precepts to make you feel bad out of context. Well, a man rob God is not talking about you got your damn $4,000 every 2 weeks and you forgot to give half of it to your pastor. Well, a man rob God is speaking about the Most High requires offerings on the altar, lambs without blemish, males of the first year. And you rob God by keeping that to yourself and giving him a beat up lamb, a bruised lamb, a lamb that was crushed, a lamb that was blind. And now you're robbing him of what the Most High requires of him. The Lord said, yeah, rob me. It's not talking about your pastor. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? And tithes and offerings. So the pastor said, if you don't pay your tithes and do your offerings, you're robbing him. And there's a lot of people, man. Church, Christianity is a big money maker. One of the biggest businesses. I mean, if we did the math, if these top mega churches put up how much revenue they made year by year, I mean, they make more than the NFL. I'm led to believe. Right? Because these guys in the NFL, they only play a few months out the year. Churches are for everything. Sometimes multiple days throughout the week. So if you go in the NFL, you kind of pay your Sunday ticket. Okay, the guys, they make money. You might get a hot dog. You might get a foam finger, number one. You might spend some money, but you're not spending money like you do consistently at church. And then it's a competition because somebody give 20,000, and then the pastor shout them out. Sister Luann gave $20,000. Who loves God more? Then Sister Gertha gets up and get $40,000. So they make it a competition. You know, they got a crush on the pastor. They freaking off with him in the basement. And we can keep going on the church, but back to the point. You don't have to give 10% of your salary. All right. You give 10% really of the increase of your field to the Levites. Because remember, the Levites, they didn't have a land that was allotted to them. Right? They didn't have a certain portion of inheritance in the land of Israel because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh was their inheritance. So they were at odds because they didn't have a land to have crops grow so they can feed their families. They didn't have a land to have cattle. They can plow the land. They didn't have those things. So they had to be taken care of. They still had to eat. They still had to drink. So the Most High made it where they were taken care of by the nation. So every Israelite had to give 10% of what they increased to the Levites. So the Levites live good, man. They live good. Remember, we're people that can't be numbered. So imagine getting 10% of an Israelite household, but it's from a people that can't be measured or numbered, right? So they were living pretty well, to say the least. This Numbers chapter 18 and 21. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance, right? It's like, yeah. For their service, which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, right? So it's not talking about your pastor. The Levites had to have 10%. Okay, next question. Any tips on how to be heartless for the kingdom of heaven's sake, like Paul? The word heartless, I understand your question, brother. Right? Now, I wouldn't use the word heartless, but I do understand what you mean. Right? You mean completely dialed in, focused, willing to let everything go, anything go, be bold, right? For the Lord, die for the Lord if it comes down to it. Cut this person off if you got to. I believe that's what you mean, right? Now, really, brother, that comes with faith, right? That comes with faith. Because the more you believe in this truth and the more that you see the promises and the reward of the kingdom, the more likely you're going to be to cut things off and cut people off that hinder you from serving Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh. It's all about faith at the end of the day anyway. Remember, Paul had a high level of faith. He said he had faith, before I get this, right, that can remove mountains, man. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and 2. And though I have to give the prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. See that? So he said, I have all faith. It says, and though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned. You would only give your body to be burned if you believe that the Lord can raise you from the dead. You believe that there's a reward. You believe that this is not it. So the things that Paul is saying, he said he'll give all his goods to feed the poor, right? He'll give his body to be burned. He feels as though he can remove mountains. All of that comes through faith. So some people, they're so dialed in the truth that it's easy for them to just, you may have a wicked mother. Let's say you got a wicked mother who just wants to keep trying to make you eat pork, or keep, grieve you every day because you don't tell her happy Mother's Day or happy birthday. And, she tries to sneak pork to your kids and feed it. And you got some people, they'll just, hey, look, I'm not dealing with that person no more. Right? Because their emotions and emotional attachments will not supersede their will and diligence to serve the Most High God. And a lot of emotional attachments do hinder people from making sound judgments, man. You can't be emotional in this thing. Well, that's my mother. She want to feed my baby pork. I gotta let her feed him pork. That's my dukes, man. That's my. So you let her feed your baby pork and feed him shrimp. Take him out to McDonald's, eating nuggets, have them break the Sabbath. Sin against your maker, defile their temple. You got to stand up for what's right in this thing, man. You got to stand up for the truth, right? This is the book of St. Matthew, chapter 5 and 29. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. Right? So you have to understand what's truly profitable. Right? You have to understand the gain of these things, man. You have to understand that, look, me cutting off my arm is more beneficial than my whole body being destroyed. The emotional attachment that I have with my friend in the world can get me killed. I'd rather feel the heartache and the sadness, for lack of better terms, of a broken friendship. I'd rather feel that than to feel my body be burned by fire. So you have to weigh this thing in the balance. And that's another thing, man. You have to really understand what's profitable for you in the long term and what's not profitable for you. And when you really sit there and analyze it, and that's how people make decisions with business. You got two companies you want to invest in. And you got people that sit there and break it down, man, a 5-year projection, what the dividend yield is going to be, what the interest, they break that whole thing down. And they say, look, I'm going to choose this company over this company because this company is going to profit me. Now, they may have been cool with the guys that own this company, man. They probably grew up together. Hey, they probably started that company, man, together. But all of those emotional attachments, hey, look, it's not going to have him feed his family at the end of the day. So you have to deem what is profitable for you in the long term. Are emotional attachments and worldly friendships, are they profitable for you in the day of judgment? Or is letting that go and serving the Most High profitable? Now, it's not an easy decision, but these are decisions that have to be made. Right? Some brothers have no problem plucking out their right eye. Just take it out. Not literal, but it's speaking about the things that are your strength, things that are dear to you. Right? Matthew 5 and 30. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. Right? And another thing that fueled Paul was the fact that Paul lived a life of mad evil, man, just complete evil. So when Paul came into the truth, he felt as though that there was really no need to look back, no need to have these emotional attachments, because me holding on to that is a reason why I could have got killed, man. All right, this Matthew chapter 5, so like 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 9. For I am the least of the apostles, that am not meet to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of the Most High, I am what I am. and his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain. See that? So Paul knew that he was a murderer, bared false witness, got his people hemmed up, hated his own people. So how could you understand? Well, I'll say it like this. Once you understand the love that Yahweh Bashmel Shai put upon you and the mercy that he gave you that you didn't deserve, gave you a chance at life, man, to be raised from the dead, to serve him. And you understand how you don't deserve it and how you really recall your sins and all of the things you did that were worthy of death. Think about it. All of the times you broke the Sabbath, all of the times that you lusted, may have fornicated, did God knows what, served other gods. All of those times you could have got put to death for all those things. But Paul understood that, damn, man, I'm nothing. I should be dead. So I'm going to take this next opportunity that the Lord has given me and I'm going to run with it, man. So that was Paul's mentality. Look, I have no time to be emotional when it comes to people of the world and people that I used to deal with, man, because I see where it had me. And I was on the verge of death, man. That's why it says, but by the grace of God, I am what I am, man. And his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain. Because some brothers, they come into this truth and the grace that the Most High gave you is in vain. Because you're still the same person you was, man. Still the same nigga, same woman, same liar. You're still proud. You're still a drunkard. You're still not submissive. So why are you even in this thing? This grace is vain to you. Paul said, that's not for me, though. I've been given a second chance, and I'm going to seek the Lord 10 times more. Right? So it's really about your faith and understanding where you were in time past and the mercy that the Lord gave you, how you shouldn't even be where you're at now, man. You know? So you got to do whatever it takes. Right? It says, was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of the Most High, which was with me. Right? See that? So this thing is about faith, man. Okay. T sellers. Will all of Israel be raptured up during the end, or will some of us be left behind during that day? Yeah, that's that there's a doctrine pre-tribulation rapture, right? Pre-tribulation rapture. And they make movies about that, the left behind, right? Now, raptured up, the word rapture isn't in the Bible, but it means to catch away, caught away, to seize. That's where we get the word, unfortunately, that's where we get the word rape from, right? Rape, rapture, it means to seize, to take away, to capture, right? Now, will all of Israel be raptured during the end, or will some of us be left behind? Let's do it, right? Let's go to the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 11, right? Revelation chapter 11 and verse 11. It reads, and after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So that's the truth coming into the men of the Lord, even the daughters of Zion, and they stand upon their feet, and the nations fear this massive awakening that's happening right now. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Now they that's ascending up to heaven in a chariot are the elect, right? The 1/3. They're going to be caught up in the clouds. When what they call UFOs, that's what the world calls them. Modern day, they call them UAPs. When these chariots come, they're going to abduct or beam up and translate the elect that are from the four winds of heaven, right? Let's go to Matthew, right? It's like I want Matthew 24. Let's get a precept on that. Now, are people going to be left behind? Well, yeah, people are going to be left behind. But who's going to be left behind, right? So we'll break it down. This Matthew chapter 24 and 31. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So the elect are the people who have been created to receive salvation, the Israelites. Rather you're in America, England, Jamaica, Trinidad, you're going to get beamed up. People in America aren't going to be the only ones that make it. You got the elect that may be in Haiti somewhere. You got the elect that may be in Brazil, and they're going to be beamed up in these different chariots. Now, when they're beamed up in these chariots, people are going to be left behind. That's what we read. And their enemies beheld them, meaning they're going to watch you as you get caught up in the clouds. Right? Now, let me look at this question again. Okay, yeah. So they're going to be left behind. But are they going to be left behind to try to get right with God and then they get a second chance? No, because that's what they teach you in the pre-tribulation rapture. If I'm not mistaken, in the pre-tribulation rapture, you have people that get caught up in the chariots, and then people remain behind for tribulation. But some people, they can repent, they get right, they can try to get it together, and then when the Lord returns again, then they get taken up into heaven. That's not according to the Bible at all. Right? Let me pull this up. Pre-tribulation rapture. Okay, the doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture. That's some doctrine that's some unknown, unscholarly man of the world just came up with, man. Right? The doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture teaches that before the worst aspects of the last days begin, we're in the last days right now. Right? It's about the worst aspects. The followers of Christ will be caught up, raptured to meet the Lord in the air, and will not experience the persecution of God's people known as the Great Tribulation. And that's not biblical, right? That's not biblical at all. The elect are going to go through the Great Tribulation. That's Jacob's trouble. If you're part of the elect, some of the elect are going to die during the Great Tribulation as martyrs. So where are they getting this idea from that certain people aren't going to go through Great Tribulation? So you don't have to go through the fire, right? You don't have to go through the furnace. Now the Most High could preserve you during that Great Tribulation, but the chariots are going to come after the Great Tribulation. Let's actually jump up and read that in verse 29. Matthew 24 and 29. Immediately after the tribulation. So there's no pre-tribulation, right? It's the chariots come after the tribulation, right? Immediately after Jacob's trouble. As Jacob's trouble draws to its conclusion, and its closure at the end, and you have men fighting for their life and running in the men of the Lord, that's when Yahweh Shah is going to return like a thief in the night. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. We covered that. And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. So World War III, these different kingdoms are going to be shaken. Those are the powers of heaven. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So what's going to happen is you're going to have Jacob's trouble. You're going to have this situation where Esau is going to be like a madman, sparing none, but still spoiling, destroying those that fear the Lord. FEMA camps, concentration camps, the guillotines, detention centers, all of that is going to happen. That's going to happen during the same time as World War III. While that's happening on the earth, the elect are still going to be here. They're going to be here during that Great Tribulation, right? Let's go to the book of, there's a good amount that we can go to. Let's go to Second Esdras, right? Second Esdras. chapter 16. And I want to get straight to the point. In verse 70, let's see, 71. Second Ezra chapter 16 and 71. I'll start at 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. So I would assume that those that fear the Lord are the elect. So they're not going to get beamed up and escape this. The Most High wants the elect to go through this, man. To see at the end all be all, are you really going to not deny his name? Because it's easy to say, I'm in the truth now. I know I can make it. Man, I'm cool, man. I ain't worried about none of that, man. You doing the feast days, right? You keeping the Passover. You got your garment on. It's Kwam Yashalas. It's Hawabash Yabashad Pakatham. It's nothing but love, and rightfully so. And there's nothing wrong with that. But does that mean that you are the elect? Now, you don't know that. You're only going to know it once you go through this. So the Lord has to prove everybody. That's the final test. The final test is Jacob's trouble. That's the final go around, the final round. Like you play games in the world, they call it the final boss. All right? Because right now your tribulation is minor. That's not me downing anything that you're going through, but that's according to the Bible. The Lord said, for this light affliction, which worketh but for a moment, worketh far more than exceeding the eternal weight of the Most High. Greatly, roughly paraphrased, 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter. So this is light affliction, what you're dealing with, man. The true affliction is coming on the earth. That's when Esau's kicking doors down, right? Hitting people upside the head, rounding them up, gathering them. They shall be like mad men, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, robbing you, taking things from you. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. So the chosen are going to be declared, not now. I don't care who says they're the elect right now, they're a damn liar. The best you can say is we're the hopeful elect, or you can say Lord willing, or whatever you can say. But you can't say I know I'm the elect. You didn't go through this trial yet. You didn't go through this massive adversity. So while the elect are going through these trials and tribulations, at a certain time during this, right afterwards, and we're not going to know that it's the end of Jacob's trouble, right? Because we don't know how long Jacob's trouble is going to be. It could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be a week. We don't know. So we're not going to know, like back in Matthew 24, when it said immediately after the tribulation, we're not going to know when that tribulation's over. Only the Lord is going to know. So immediately after that is on the timeline. Yahushua is going to return. Now, when Yahushua returns and they beam up the elect, there will be people left behind. Who are the ones going to be left behind? Well, first and foremost, in America, everybody is not the elect, right? Amongst the elect that dwell in America, if you're not part of that number, you're going to be destroyed. Let's get that. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 11 again, 12 again. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So they will be left behind. And the same hour, there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, meaning complete destruction. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, meaning everybody. And the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. You see that? So the people that barely make it out, that 1/3, they're going to be affrighted, man, and give glory to the Most High. Everybody else is going to be destroyed. So there is no, and I believe that is some of the doctrine of the pre-tribulation, right? You get a second chance to kind of get right. Then, you try to figure life out. They got movies like that, right? Left Behind, man. And then these movies Left Behind, and I saw this movie, man. Right? I think I saw this. But in this movie, when people got kind of taken up, you had Edomites, right? You had Edomites that still was kind of trying to figure things out, man. You're not going to have Edomites still trying to figure life out after the destruction. The Lord said in that same hour, there was a great earthquake and everybody died. We're just left behind. I hate this place, man. All right? See that? So when you go back to this, let's go back to it. Let's go back to the question. Will some of us be left behind? So the us is yeah, you're going to have some of us left behind. Who's the us? The 2/3. The 2/3 are going to be left behind. And the 2/3 are going to be destroyed. Those who refuse, the Lord said in Amos 9, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. It didn't say some of the people. Amos 9:9. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. So the Lord is going to gather the elect from everywhere. He's not going to leave any one of his saints that have been following him through faith and works. He's not going to leave them there. He's going to gather them from the uttermost parts of the earth. And what else for everybody else? All the sinners of my people. So rather you're in America, rather you're a sinner in Jamaica, in England, Haiti, Tijuana, all the sinners of my people shall what? Shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. So anybody that remains amongst our people, they're going to die. All right. So let's move on. Right. These are good questions. David ben Israel. Shalom, King. Right. Shalom. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and 8, what's the Thummim and Urim? Right. Let's deal with it. Deuteronomy. Now, Deuteronomy 33 is a chapter that's somewhat similar to Genesis chapter 49 in terms of the blessings. So in Genesis 49, the blessings were given by Jacob, right? It says, gather yourselves together. Ye gather together, that may tell you what shall befall you in the last days, paraphrasing, right? Now, Deuteronomy chapter 33 is about the blessings given to the 12 tribes, but this time by Moses, okay? Now, Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 8. And there are tribes, there are blessings for each tribe. I'm gonna start at 1. I'm gonna read through 8. And this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of the Most High, blessed the children of Israel before his death. And he said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir unto them. He shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. From his right hand went a fiery law for them. So when Yahushua appeared unto Moses with the angels, they gave him the law. Right? Our forefathers knew that the law was given by Yahweh Shemashah and the angels. Okay. Yea, he loved the people. All the saints are in thy hand, and they sat down at thy feet. Every one shall receive of thy words. Moses commanded us a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. And he was king in Jeshurun, when the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together. Now, Jeshurun is Yashawan in the Hebrew. It means upright one. Now, here's the blessings for the tribes. Let Reuben live and not die, and let not his men be few. That's why the Reubenites, they didn't sell out like a lot of the other northern kingdom tribes. The Seminole Indians, they tended to have more of an aggressive, independent spirit than the rest of the tribes, man. And that was their blessing, not to be just cut off, right? Like a lot of the other tribes are cut off. They fought, they were warriors. They subdued a lot of those Edomites out there, man. And there's a lot of them down there, man. They had Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, and he had that entire land, man. That's what it means, let not his men be few. And even to this day, there's a lot of Reubenites. I'm led to believe there's a lot of Judites from down south who are actually Reubenites, but think that they're Judah, man. Right? A lot of you brothers, your family might be from Florida or down, and you might be a Reubenite, man. You're not going to have, everybody's not a Judite, right? Everybody's not a Judite, man. You ask every brother, I'm Judah. Everybody's either Judah or Ephraim. But where's Naphtali at, man? Right? I'm Judah or I'm Ephraim. No, brother. Right? Now, again, through faith, we believe we are these tribes, of course. Right? But I mean, come on now. Right? You have 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Right? But getting to the point. And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou in help to Slakia, be thou in help to him from his enemies. So here's the blessing of Judah, bring him into his people. That's why the children of Judah are on the forefront of the ministry. The children of Judah are the leaders of the 12 tribes, right? And their job is to go out there first in the highways and byways and gather the tribes together, right? Now here's that's what the Lord said in Zechariah 12:7, that he would save the tents of Judah first, right? Reading on verse 8. And of Levi he said, let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One, Slakia, whom thou didst prove at Massah, and with whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah. Now the Thummim and the Urim, Thummim and Urim means light and perfection, or Urim and Thummim. Awarium wa Thummim, light and perfection. So these were elements created by Yahweh Basham Yahushai, given to the priest, that they may what? Give righteous judgment and righteous counsel in the event that Moses, priest, elders, judges could not. So there were situations like, let's go to the book of Ezra, where a mortal man couldn't figure something out, right? Like the genealogies of the Levites, right? Let's go to Ezra. It's like in chapter 2, leave it 159. Okay, I'm gonna start at 62. Ezra chapter 2 and 62. These sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but they were not found. Therefore were they, as polluted, put from the priesthood. So you had men that knew that they were Levites, but they couldn't prove it. And some men who may have claimed that they were Levites, but they could not prove their genealogy because a lot of our records were burned by the Babylonians. So our forefathers didn't take a chance. They said, if you can't prove that you're a Levite, we're going to put you from the priesthood, right? And the Tershatha, that's the governor, said unto them that they should not eat of the most holy things till there stood up a priest with what? With the Urim and Thummim. So the Urim and the Thummim was, again, stones, elements set up within the priest that he could tap in directly to the source, man. Tap in directly to Yahweh himself, Basham Yahushai, and receive divine revelations and wisdom, right? Through those things, and it would tap into his mind, and he would get the answers and say, yeah, this guy's a Levite. No, he's not a Levite. And he didn't have to have the so-called paperwork to prove it, man. Right? He just knew it because he had them stones that tapped into the elements of his mind that allowed him to get these sound judgments that came from the Lord. Right? Now in the law, when you go to the book of Exodus, I believe the 30th chapter, right? Or the 28th chapter, Salakia, 28 and 30. This Exodus chapter 28, and Salakia, bear with me. Right, bear with me 1 second. Okay. All right, Salaki, this Exodus chapter 28 and verse 29. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel, and the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in into the holy place, for a memorial before the Lord continually. And I'm gonna show you an image of what the priest would wear. Make sure the screen is showing. Okay. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim. Now, can you have Urim and Thummim now? No. Do I believe Esau's trying to find it? Yes. Gotta find it, because Esau, they make movies like we gotta gather the you have Thanos. Thanos was gathering the stones, and all of the stones allowed him to do certain things, man. The high priest had the stones. He had the 12 stones for the 12 tribes, and he had the Urim and the Thummim. So Esau, he made movies about that. He puts things out there with stones that give power, because ultimately Yahweh Shem Shai gave that unto us. And Jake, now they have a spirit to wear stones and crystals, because deep in a spirit, they know at one time our forefathers dealt with that on the right-hand side. But now they're trying to figure it out, and this stone gives you this, and now they're just outright going off, man. You know, when you look up the priest, let's see, high priest garment. Okay, let's pull this up. Okay, it's not what I want. Okay, let me go to this. All right, this is a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see. So we have the Urim and the Thummim right here on his shoulders. And then you have the 12 stones for the 12 tribes of Israel. See that? You got the turban. You got the diadem. Right? You had the tunic. Then you had the stones, the onyx stones. And then you had the Urim and you had the Thummim. All right. So let's go back to this. If you look up now, Urim and Thummim. Pull this up. See, they had it right here in Latin. Lux et veritas. Lux is Latin for light, et is Latin for and veritas is truth. But it's really light and perfection. Okay, so let me go back to this. See, they say it was white and black. I've seen that, but we really don't know. Right? We really don't know if it was a white stone and a black stone. We really don't know. But they would have this Urim and this Thummim used for judgment, right? Used for judgment. So let's go back to this. Let thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One, right? Whom thou didst prove at Massa, whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah. So they were essentially stones for judgment. That's why Jake likes stones for power now. Okay, I gotta have my stones on. Can't leave the house without my crystal stone. Right, this stone. You got Eve that deal with a lot of stones. I gotta put this stone that allows me to do this, and this stone helped me do this. Now, I'm not gonna go deep into that. Now, there are elements that can affect your body. You have radioactive elements. You have certain stones that, you know, it could jam you up. You have certain elements that are against you, man. You know, so there are things that have an effect on your body. But, you know, do we have all of that knowledge now? No. We don't have all of that knowledge, man. Right? You have different things that you can't come too close with. You know, different lights that you can't get too close with. Like X-ray. If you go to an X-ray and you don't have the protection thing going, and you get jammed up, man. So there are certain elements of things that you can't really be exposed with, man, because it's not good for you. And then on the right-hand side, there are certain things that are good for you. There are herbs and particular, like sunlight is good for you, and different things. So we don't really know. We don't have that knowledge like we did in the ancient world, right? We are kind of against the earth, and the earth is against us. There was a time when we knew about all of the herbs, the lights, the stuff. We knew all of those things, man, right? But we kind of lost that knowledge, and all we know is stuffed crust and deep dish, man. Deep dish pizzas, stuffed crust, man, and flats, right? I want all flats. I give me 12-piece wings, all flats, right? And Jake, you don't know nothing else, man, but basketball and niggatry. All right, so where we at? From Napa Valley, can we heat up food prepared or cooked the night before? Are you talking about the Sabbath? Right. Well, you can't cook on the Shabbat. Right. You can't cook on the Sabbath. You could eat food that was cooked the night before if it was cooked before the sun went down. All right. If it was cooked before the sun went down, yeah, you can eat that. All right. But no, you can't heat up food now or cook food now. All right. You can't do that. Okay. Next question from Aliyah Hawksworth. I'm 26 and I'm still a virgin. I don't know if I want to get married or to be with someone. Is there a way to know if God has called me to singleness? Well, ultimately, it's the will of Yahweh B'Shem Shai, right? When you go to, let's go to Genesis, right? The 2nd chapter, right? And verse 24 or 20. And Adam gave names to all cattle and to the fowl of the air and to every beast. Well, let me make sure my screen is showing. Okay, and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not a helpmeet found for him. Right? And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And we know that's not literal, right? We've covered that before, speaking about the Lord took one of Adam's near relatives, one of his kinsmen, and brought her unto Adam, right? And this is the point I want. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her unto the man, right? So ultimately, it's up to the will of Yahweh B'Shem Shai to bring you to a man, right? You have a lot of sisters, they look out for husbands. Gotta search my husband. I have to find one. Everybody's married. I need to be married. Now, this is the will of the Lord, man. Now, if you're sincere, not speaking to you personally to ask the question, but generally speaking, in a sincere spirit, the Most High is going to bring you to a righteous man if you're a righteous woman. And that's according to his time, right? Now, that's all the will of Yahweh B'Shem Shai. It's not up to man to determine when they're going to get married and if they're going to get married. Now, in his flesh, as a sister, all you could do right now is keep your focus on the Most High, right? The Lord may have you patiently waiting, man, until you build yourself up, until you get on a level where the Most High, I don't have the mind of the Lord, but this is me speaking as a man, to the Most High puts you on a level to where you should be, or maybe there's some things you still may have to grow on or learn on, or maybe the man that the Most High has in store for you, he has to get built up, and that's the man the Lord want for you, but the Most High is working on that brother to be molded to take care of you, man. Right? So you never know the mind of the Lord, but all we can do, in his truth, is be patient, huh? Right? This is the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 7 and verse 32. But I will have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord. So brothers that have no wife, those brothers are really, they should be focused on serving the Lord. It has its, for lack of better terms, right, has its pros and cons being married, right? Pros, okay, you have a wife, you have a helpmeet, you bear children, you have a family. Con, right, your time dedicated to the Most High now is dedicated towards your family. So the time that you want to spend praying and fasting and reading, and you can watch the videos and you're really into it and you have no distractions, you can really get built up and really take advantage of that, man. Brothers that have no wife, take advantage of this time that the Lord has given you, man. Don't take all this time looking for a woman, man. I'm single. You spend 75% of your day looking for a wife, man. And the other 25% or the 10% you spend freaking off. Then the other 15%, now you're in the scriptures. So if you're unmarried, your focus should be caring for the things that belong to the Lord, right? Your prayers, your fasting, getting yourself built up, keeping the laws, keeping the commandments, building a sisterhood, man, right? You may have sisters that you may reach out to or learn how to be a sister, right? These are the things that we have to learn first, right? You have to learn how to be a brother before you can learn how to be a husband, man. Right? You have to learn how to be a sister sometimes before you learn how to be a wife. Is that always the case? No, but that's a good spirit to have, man. You know? Verse 33. But he that is married careth for the things that are of the world, how he may please his wife. So now you got a wife. Now you got to spend time with your woman. She may want to, watch a movie. She may want to go out to eat. She may want to, whatever, man. Right? Go out to the beach or do God knows what in righteousness. So now you got to stop what you're doing and have that just balance to please your wife, man. Does that mean you put your wife before the Most High? No, but you have to deal with your wife, man. All right? Verse 34. There is difference also between a wife and a virgin. A lot of brothers single, man. I can't wait to get married. Right? Then you get married and you got 8 kids. I don't have no time for myself. Right? I don't know what to do. I have 4 kids. I don't know. They're crying all night and I can't do this and I'm tired. And well, brother, right? Just what you was asking for. Now you got to deal with it, man. Right? Verse 34. There is difference also, or it's like there is a difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit. So that's what the unmarried woman should be focused on. She should be focused on being holy both in her body and in the spirit. Reading about Sarah, reading about Rebecca, Rachel, Esther, Judith, Martha, Mary, the other Mary, Dorcas, Phoebe, right? Clement, all of these righteous women. She should be studying these traits and seeing what they did that pleased the Most High. Looking at the wicked women and what they did and how they displeased the Most High. Athaliah, Jezebel, right? You're looking at righteous women like Abigail. Then you contrast to a wicked woman that went off, and you're discerning what traits are acceptable and what traits are not acceptable. What things righteous wives did, right? Like Sarah, she obeyed her husband to call himself Lord, called him Lord. Righteous things like Esther did, right? So there are things that you want to study that you can learn how to be both holy in body and in spirit, and as you build yourself up and process of time, the Most High may give you over to a husband, right? But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. Now you got a husband, now you got to cook, right? Now you may have to, you got his clothes, ironing his clothes for work, and you may have to kind of, dealing with the kids, you got to kind of get this done. Now you got that, you got a lot going on now, man. Right? And this I speak for your own profit, not that I may cast a snare upon you, but for that which is comely, and that ye may tend, it's like that ye may attend upon the Lord without distraction. Right? So Paul wanted you to understand both aspects of it, to let you know what happens if you're married, what you miss out on, and what happens when you're single, and what you have to deal with, right? But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age, and need so require, let him do what he will, he sinneth not, let them marry. So you might have had a father who said, I want to give my daughter over to marriage, right? Or he might have said, she's of age, I should give my daughter over to marriage. It's time. and I'm gonna let her marry. That's not a sin if he give his daughter over in marriage. So it's not a sin if a woman do get married, but it must be done in wisdom. It must be done in patience, and it must be done in righteousness, right? Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but that power over his own will, and that so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin, doeth well. You might have a brother that say, I don't want her to be married yet, my daughter, right? I want her to get built up. So then he that giveth her in marriage doeth well, but he that giveth her not in marriage doeth better, right? So, to the point of the sister, right? It's all about being patient and continually serving Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? Instead of focusing on that the Most High called you to singleness, focus on something spiritual, right? That you can build yourself up on, examine yourself, see where you can increase that. So that should be on your forefront of your mind. Now, of course, does every woman want to be married? Yes. So I get it, right? There's not, in the ancient world, women, Rachel told Jacob, give me children or else I die. So I get it. We understand that women want to bear children. They want to be married, right? They want to be a mother in Israel. That's perfectly understandable. And to have those questions and emotions, we get it, right? But keep your focus on the Most High, and the Lord will give you these things in due time. That's Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you, right? So don't vex yourself, stress yourself out. Focus on this truth, and the Lord will give you your reward at due time, right? Let me get that in Sirach chapter 51, right? So this thing is about patience, you know? This is Ecclesiasticus. Let me get one more in that, right? Chapter 51, right? Work your work betimes, like it says, man. This Ecclesiasticus chapter 51 and verse 30. Work your work betimes, and in his time he will give you your reward. So keep working the faith, man. Right? You got your dresses, you got your fringes, your head wraps, you praying, you fasting, you studying, you keep the commandments, right? You learning how to be a sister, you learning these traits of a wife, you're diligent, you have a pattern of good works. Keep working that work. And in his time, he will give you your reward, right? Your reward is having a husband, all right? That's the reward right there. Having a head to guide and to direct you in righteousness, Okay, next question. From Susan Tillman, what's a proselyte according to scripture? So a proselyte is a convert, right? A proselyte is a convert, someone who was in the world, who is newly learning about the truth and learning about a new doctrine or a new way of life. Okay, so this is Acts. Let's get an example of that. Acts 6:5. And the saying pleased the whole multitude, and they chose Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Spirit. So these are the 7 men that were set up over the church to help the women that were neglected in the daily ministration that we covered earlier. So one of the men was Stephen, and Philip, and Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmenas, and Nicholas, a proselyte of Antioch. So this brother was on a high level. He came into this truth. He was new, but he was so on a high level, they chose him to be one of the top deacons, right? So I'm going to go into this word proselyte in the Greek. I believe it's proselyteos. Let's play this. A newcomer, one who has come over from a Gentile religion to Judaism. Basically, somebody who newly came into the truth. That's what a proselyte is. All right? That's what a proselyte is. But with that, I'm going to have to close up, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. Tune in to the Sabbath service, right? Tune in. We'll be going live on the main channel at around 12:30 or so, right? Maybe 12 o'clock. Tune in, tap in, Keep the Sabbath holy. No buying, no selling, no sex on the Sabbath, no speaking your own words, doing your own pleasures, no vanity, wickedness, guile, and deceit. With that, Yahweh Bashima Mashiach Malak Yahushai, Most High willing you were edified. Kwam Yasha. Shalom.